been in this forgiveness series, but Sunday is Easter, and I want to talk a little bit about the Passion of Christ, or His Passion Week. I do this usually every year about this time. And in Matthew chapter 12, we'll start in verse number 38. And I titled the message, Why I Believe It Should Be Called Good Wednesday. I'm not a Good Friday guy. If you've been here for any amount of time, you know that I'm not a Good Friday celebrant. I don't believe that you get 3 days and 3 nights from a Friday through Sunday. Now, some people will say, well, that's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But what we're going to look at in the Scriptures is it took a little bit longer than that, and where we get the 3 days and 3 nights from, and then what Jesus did when He was in the tomb are the things we're going to be looking at tonight briefly. And so Matthew chapter 12 and verse number 38, this is where we get our time frame from. And it says, Then certain of the scribes and of the Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign from thee. But he answered and said unto them, An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given it. By the way, on the lighter side, that's what all the pastors in Arizona said when we wanted a sign for our church. We were at a preacher's fellowship, and I was considered a church planner back then. I'm like, hey, we'd like to raise money for a sign. And they all quoted me this passage. An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. And there shall no sign be given to it. Anyways, that was just a little on the lighter side. The verse continues, But the sign of the prophet Jonas, for as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So if Jesus Christ rose Sunday morning at sunrise in Jerusalem, can you count Sunday as a day? No. The day hadn't even started yet. Especially on the Hebrew calendar, the day starts at 6 a.m. And while it was yet night, the girls, Mary and the other Mary, and I think there were 7 other Marys, ran to the tomb while it was yet dark. And so just before sunrise on Sunday morning, Jesus rose from the tomb. So we can't even count Sunday as a day. So then if you just did that, what are 3 days back from Sunday? If you took off Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it would be Saturday, Friday, Thursday. So at the very least, I would be a good Thursday guy. At the very least. We have to have 3 days and 3 nights. And so this Good Friday thing, I don't know where that came from, where it started, but you can't look at the calendar and say Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's 3 days and 3 nights, and come up with a Good Friday. I am a Wednesday crucifixion believer. I believe that He was crucified on Wednesday and was buried by Thursday morning. And we'll get into that in just a little bit, what the time frame was. Now, you know, He was put on the cross at the 3rd hour of the day, and so that would be 9 a.m. He gave up the ghost on the 9th hour of the day, so that would be 3 p.m. But then the Roman soldiers came by to break legs to try to get them to all die by 6 p.m. because the next day was going to be the Sabbath. And they found that Jesus had already given up the ghost, so they didn't break His legs. They stabbed Him with a spear. And, of course, that's when the blood and the water came out. So we have the body on the cross at least until 6 p.m. Okay? Are you with me on that? Go with me to John chapter 19. So the time frame is 3 days and 3 nights. Well, what happened from, say, 6 p.m. Wednesday to the actual burial of the body? What happened? What was going on in that time frame? In Matthew chapter 19 and verse 38, I believe, we get the answer to that. John chapter 19 and verse 38, and after this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews, besought Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus, and Pilate gave him leave. He came, therefore, and took the body of Jesus. And I wish I'd have wrote this down. I think it's Matthew 27. Matthew 27 and verse 57. Yeah, 57. When the even was come. And so there's the time frame when Joseph of Arimathea went to start to ask for the body of Jesus Christ. When even was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea named Joseph, who also himself was Jesus' disciple. And so when even was come, he started the process. Now, to walk from Joseph's house, he couldn't get an Uber, so he had to walk. How long do you think it took him to get to Pilate's place? Took a little bit of time. How long do you think it took him to get an audience with Pilate, the governor of Judah? Well, he was rich, so it would have probably taken him less time than it would have taken you and me. But it was even time. Do you think Pilate likes to eat at even time? So I'm just throwing out some ideas on where time may have been spent. Then it says, Pilate gave him leave. He came, therefore, and took the body of Jesus. So walking from where Pilate lived to the cross, how much time do you think that took? And then getting the body down off of the cross, how much time do you think that took? And then walking that body from the cross to where they were going to prepare the body. It goes on and it says, in verse 39, and there came also Nicodemus, which at the first came to Jesus by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100-pound weight. Then took they the body of Jesus, and wound it in linen clothes with the spices, as the manner of the Jews is to bury. Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden a new sepulchre, wherein was never man yet laid. There laid they Jesus, therefore, because the Jews' preparation day for the sepulchre was nigh at hand. So we're seeing the preparation of the body. And for 3 days and 3 nights to work, going back from Sunday morning at sunrise, then the body had to be in the tomb Thursday morning by daybreak. Because he says he was going to be in the heart of the earth, so he was going to be in the tomb 3 days and 3 nights. Now, he was actually dead for 3 days and 3.5 nights. And according to Jewish custom, body sees corruption at 4 days. And so when we read and I believe it's in the Psalms, that he will see no corruption, his body will see no corruption, that means he had to get out of the tomb. He could not be dead more than 4 days. It had to be less than 4 days, or his body would have seen corruption. And so death in this, just looking at this, if you're a Wednesday crucifixion person, death was 3 days and 3.5 nights, but he was in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. But then what did he do for 3 days and 3 nights? What was it? What did Jesus do? I mean, you think he was just taking a break from the crucifixion? Oh, I'm going to lay in the tomb where it's cool and chill out. I've had a rough 33.5 years. I had to be the last 3.5 years with 12 Jews. Do you know how hard that is to be? around 12 Jews and you're trying to teach them new things? Every time that you read in the scriptures where Jesus said verily or verily, verily, he was giving them a new thing. And do you know how hard it is to teach a Jew a new thing? How hard is it to teach you guys new things? You know, Baptists, come on, we're like almost Jews in that aspect. Can't teach an old dog new tricks, can you? Yes, thank you. Let me go there. I wasn't asking. Yeah, I wasn't asking. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse number 8. It was a question, but I was not asking. I am asking the question, then I'm going to tell you. Ephesians chapter 4, and we'll start verse number 8. It says this, wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive, and gave gifts unto men. Now that he ascended, what is it but that he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth? He that descended is the same also that ascended up far above all heavens, that he might fulfill all things. And so what did he do? Well, it says he went down into the lower parts of the earth, and then he ascended. And then it says in verse number 8, where he led captivity captive. So what does all that mean? Turn with me to Luke 16 and we'll see exactly what it means. I know most of you know this already, but somebody might be watching that's not ever heard it before. And it's always good to be reminded, isn't it? Now, didn't Jesus say in Matthew chapter 12 and verse number 40, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth? And then we just read in Ephesians chapter 4 that he's going to descend to the lower parts of the earth. Here's a real question, Art. So where do you think that he went? Where do you think this place is that he went? Where? Give me a location, not the name. Yes. If you read I'm having a hard time getting my brain wrapped around this sentence. You read what the verses say, and the only conclusion that we can come to is the core. So this place that Jesus descended to, the heart of the earth, the lower parts of the earth, we would say it's the core. Now, has anybody ever been to the core of the earth? Yeah, we saw it on the movie. It's called The Core. What's between us and the core? Let's go back to geology just for a moment. All right, so there's crust, a couple of miles, right? A couple of miles thick. Then what's between the crust and the core? The mantle, which is like molten lava. Yeah, molten rock. What's the core? Some people believe that the core is hollow. I don't know how they know that. By the way, if you ever read a story where somebody drilled all the way down through the core, it's baloney, it's malarkey. Number one, and Art mentioned it a couple of times, it's 4,000 miles thick. Number two, it's molten. A drill bit's not going to make it. Neither is a microphone. Yeah, neither is a microphone going to make it. Where somebody said, yeah, we were drilling really far into the earth and we heard the screams of the people that were in hell. No, that's a dramatization. Now, if it could happen, if that could happen, if somehow we could run a tube all the way 4,000 miles, by the way, 4,000 miles up into space. What would we be touching if we built a tube that long? It'd be pretty close to the moon, wouldn't it? But if we could, and then drop down a microphone that would not burn up from the heat, the intense pressure and the intense heat, you know what you would hear? You would hear screams. Because in Matthew chapter 9, verses 44, 46, 48, says there's wailing and gnashing of teeth. So if you could, you would, but, we can't, so we haven't. That was a dramatization, something John would come up with an imagination. But the heart of the earth, Luke chapter 16, let's just pick it up in verse 19. We'll read a couple of verses through this. You know the account here. There was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried, and in hell he lift up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water, and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. And then you guys know the conversation between Lazarus and the rich man and Abraham. There's a great gulf fixed. But could they see each other? Now, one was in hell. The rich man was in hell. And Lazarus was in Abraham's bosom. We know that side as paradise. That side is where Jesus came down and led captivity captive. He went down into the heart of the earth, Matthew chapter 12 and verse number 40. He went down to the lower parts of the earth, Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 9. And he grabbed up paradise, or Abraham's bosom, and took that up into heaven. And then what did he do? Well, if we continued reading in John, I'm sorry, not John. I thought I read, in Ephesians chapter 4 and verse number 8. It says, wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive, and he gave gifts unto men. So when he pulled all the Old Testament saints out of Abraham's bosom and took them up into heaven, he gave men gifts. Just like he's going to do after the rapture, right? Because he's going to take his church up into heaven. And are any of you expecting to get a reward? Raise your hand. You're going to get one. You're going to get one. And if you follow the Scriptures and obey the Scriptures and do what the Scriptures say and be doers of the word, not hearers only, it'll be more than one gift. It'll be more than one reward. And he'll say to us, well done. Boy, that would be enough for me. If all he did was looked at me and said, well done, that would be enough. But not only that, he's going to say, well done, and oh, by the way, here's a crown, here's a crown, here's a crown, here's a crown. Have some more gifts. What a great Savior we have, don't we? So in the 3 days and the 3.5 nights that Jesus was in the tomb, he went down into Abraham's bosom and he took that up. And other portions say that he preached. I like to use my imagination too, not just John, but I like to use my imagination too. Can you imagine, since the time that Abel went into Abraham's bosom, Every time somebody came in, do you think he may have said, is it you? Are you him? Are you the one? So when Abel was in there, first, of course, he's in paradise all by himself. And then the next saint dies. Let's say, I know more died before him, but let's say his father died, Adam died, and ended up. And Abel looks at him, is it you? Are you the one? Oh, okay, you're Adam, you're my dad. And then maybe Seth shows up years later. Are you the one? Oh, okay, you're my brother. Wow, I never met you. And then years later, Noah would show up. And then after that, Moses would show, or Abraham would show up, and then Jacob and Isaac and Moses and Joshua and the minor prophets and the major prophets, and those guys would show up, and paradise is filling up with all of these Old Testament saints. And every time somebody came in, the whole crowd would look. Now, maybe there was a door or something, and everybody would look and say, are you the one? And then finally, the one showed up. He said, I am the one. I'm the Son of God. I'm the light. I'm the door. I'm the gate. I'm the shepherd. They've crucified me. I'm now here with you, but we're about to go up into heaven. You're about to meet my Father. Things are about to get better. Can you imagine how good paradise was? Could you imagine how much better it could be up in heaven? And so he takes them up and then gives them gifts. You know, he's doing all of that in these 3 days and 3 nights. So on this night, so it would be Wednesday night, probably his body is being prepared. Probably Joseph and Nicodemus are showing up together. They may have just gotten the body back to the tomb. They might be transporting the body right now. But just think about this. Over the next couple of days, Jesus is preaching to these Old Testament saints, and he hasn't risen yet. But on Sunday, we're going to get that message when he does rise. And God gives him that stamp of approval. God accepts his son's sacrifice, and all of these people, and not only that, but now every single one of us that die in Jesus Christ, we're going to go straight to heaven. What a Savior we have. And he had to endure the last 3.5 years, but also had to endure the last several days from the Passover. Then he was arrested, and then he was unjustly tried by Pilate, by the high priest and by the temple guard, unjustly treated, and then he was brought before Pilate. He endured all of that for what's going to happen on Sunday morning for you and for me. Because for God so loved the world that he sent his son for this. All right, that's it for tonight. Anybody have any questions or comments? Go ahead and hit stop, John.